The moment she shook hands with her sister in this strange new world, Dahlia felt it. This wasn't just any girl. This was her ex-best friend, the one who had betrayed her and driven her to her death. Top 10 backstabbers of all time. Back in her original life, Dahlia had lived alone after her parents divorced. Life was already tough, but after she transferred to a new school, she met her, that fake friend. Her friend constantly schemed behind her back, tricking her into embarrassing situations and turning classmates against her. Eventually, the humiliation became too much. One day, Dahlia walked to the edge, turned her so-called bestie, and jumped, leaving behind one final curse. In the next life, I'll get my revenge. But right after she jumped, that same friend tried to save her, panicked, slipped, and fell right after her. After death, Dahlia found herself reincarnated inside a novel she had read before. This time, she wasn't just any character. She was a breathtakingly beautiful, noble daughter from a Count's family. Sound great, right? Not really. In the story, her character was just a villainess, cold-hearted and doomed to be rejected and discarded by the male lead. And as fate would have it, her ex-bestie also got reincarnated, this time as the heroine of the story. Talk about unfair. Her friend hadn't read the book, so she had no idea what kind of world they were in. She had just been brought back to the Count's estate after being cast out for being an illegitimate child. Today was the first time the two sisters met. Dahlia tried to keep things civil, even planning to leave a good first impression, until she noticed something. As they shook hands, she spotted a faint scar on her sister's hand, a scar exactly like the one she remembered from their last moments together, the one her best friend had gotten while trying to pull her back. The voice, the face, the fake sweetness. It was all too familiar. Dahlia was now sure. Her half-sister was that same girl from her past life. Luckily, her sister, Flor, had bad eyesight, so she didn't recognize Dahlia's scar. But Dahlia recognized everything. This had to be fate's way of giving her the chance to get revenge. Dahlia immediately started recalling the story's events. She knew that tomorrow, there would be a grand ball, one where she and Flor would both attend a that event. The crown prince, Noel, would fall for Flor at first sight. In the original story, Flor would see through Noel's cold, tyrannical nature and slowly melt his heart with love. Eventually, the two would live happily ever after. But Dahlia smirked coldly and thought to herself, happily ever after? Not while I'm here. If you get a happy ending, I'll shave my head. Meanwhile, Flor, who had just arrived in this noble household, was feeling frustrated. Her older sister, Dahlia, had such a rude and arrogant attitude, and it was already getting on her nerves. She'd heard that there was going to be a ball tomorrow, and rumors said Dahlia had a real shot at becoming someone important, maybe even joining the Emperor's inner circle. Flor looked at her reflection in the mirror, her delicate features flawless as she fell deep in thought. Then she snapped out of it. Winning over men's hearts? Pleased that no one does it better than me. So let's recap. Dahlia and her former best friend, who betrayed her and got her killed, were both reincarnated into a novel. But of course, her friend ended up as the beloved, kind-hearted female lead, while Dahlia became the infamous villainess everyone hated. How bad is her reputation? One time, a maid accidentally broke a vase, and Dahlia just walked over and stepped on the shattered pieces barefoot to intimidate her. The maid panicked and cleaned it up in a hurry, while the other two maids glanced over nervously. Dahlia caught them and snapped, "Get the entire house spotless. If I see even one speck of dust, I'll make you regret it." Despite her harsh tone, the maids gossiped behind her back. Wow, Miss Dahlia's really changed. She's so gentle now. Dahlia was speechless. She was already trying her best to tone it down. How are they praising her now? Were all these maids secretly into pain? Today was the big day. She and Flor, her sister, were attending a royal banquet. Their noble father was hoping one of them could become the Emperor's dance partner. The Emperor himself, Prince Noel, looked over the two stunning girls and asked, "Which one of you would like to be my partner?" Even though he asked both of them, his eyes never left Dahlia. But Dahlia wasn't foolish. In the original novel, she had taken the initiative and asked him to dance, only to be publicly rejected. She wasn't going to walk into that trap again. She bowed gracefully and said she wasn't feeling well today. Then she gently pushed Flor forward to take her place instead. That shocked their father. He had been hoping Dahlia would dance with the Emperor. After all, she was the one he raised personally, the daughter with pure, noble blood. Even Noel was surprised. Wasn't this woman supposed to be obsessed with him? He'd been planning to use the moment to humiliate her a little, and now she backed out. Meanwhile, Dahlia slipped away and stood alone on the balcony. Deep in thought, she realized something. If she wanted to get back at Flor, fighting over a man who clearly didn't like her was a waste of time. There was a better option, someone who could help her carry out her revenge. According to the story's timeline, that person would be arriving at the balcony any moment now. Right on cue, Duke Johann, the Emperor's half-brother, appeared. He was tall, handsome, and famously cautious. When he saw Dahlia, he was a bit surprised. "I heard Count Darrington's eldest daughter was very fond of the Emperor, so why aren't you dancing with him right now?" Dahlia chuckled. "Duke Johann, you really believe those silly rumors? Shouldn't you be judging people with your own eyes, not your ears?" Then, she added casually, "I've left the Emperor to my sister. I'm done with that." Johann was intrigued. This girl didn't act like the clingy, noble daughter he'd heard about. Could she really be different? Dahlia leaned a little closer and said, "There's a secret under this palace you wouldn't believe, that I know things about the past and about the future." Johann blinked. Okay, this girl might be crazy. But before he could say anything, Dahlia continued, her tone completely serious. "So, how about you and I form a little alliance? This woman, who was reincarnated into a novel alongside the best friend who once got her killed, didn't go after the Emperor male lead like everyone expected. Instead, she went straight to the powerful Grand Duke Johann, a man who, in the original story, had no romantic ties to her at all, and boldly proposed marriage. With a seductive smile, Dahlia told him, "I have the power to see both the past and the future. I can help you get revenge easily." Johann opened his mouth to respond, but then changed his mind, keeping a calm and cold tone. "I'm afraid I don't have anyone to take revenge on." But Dahlia didn't miss a beat. She leaned in slightly and said something that made his expression freeze. "Don't you want to free your mother, the Empress Dowager?" That struck a nerve. You see, Johann and the current emperor, Noel, were half-brothers. Johann's mother was the rightful queen, the former empress. But somehow, the throne went to Noel instead. Not only that, Noel locked the former empress away inside the palace to control Johann and banished him to a far-off northern territory that Johann's face darkened. "How do you know all of this?" Dahlia reminded him. "Didn't I tell you already? I know the past and the future, but I don't know what lies ahead for me. That's why I need an ally." Johann was clearly deep in thought. Still, he rejected her proposal. Now's not the right time. Besides, if someone really likes you, they won't be able to look you straight in the eyes, and I can tell you don't love me. Dahlia wasn't giving up. "Then tell me, do you like anyone else right now?" Johann hesitated for a moment, then answered honestly, "My only concern is rescuing my mother. I don't have time for romance." Dahlia was thrilled. This meant his heart was available. She leaned forward with a grin. "Then if neither of us has feelings for someone, wouldn't getting married be guilt-free and clean? No messy emotions." But Johann, being the honest and upright man he was, refused her again, firm and decisive. Later that night, Dahlia returned home and told her father, the Count, that she wanted to marry Johann. His reaction? Explosive rage. The Count had always hoped his stunning eldest daughter would marry the Emperor and lift the family into power. Now she wanted to marry a banished duke instead. Absolutely unacceptable. That's when Dahlia realized her father didn't care about her. To him, she was just a pawn for political gain. The next day, she watched her sister Fleur all dressed up, heading off to another date with the Emperor, while Dahlia herself was grounded at home for reflection. But she refused to sit around waiting. She changed into a dazzling gown, told the servants she was going to see the Emperor, and then quietly rerouted her carriage to Johann's hidden estate instead. By the time she arrived at his secluded mansion, it was already dark. Johann was surprised she managed to find the place, but then remembered she did claim to know the future, so maybe it wasn't so shocking after all. Dahlia got straight to the point and once again proposed marriage. And once again, Johann firmly turned her down. But this time, she was prepared. She pulled out her trump card. "It's the middle of the night. If I leave your estate now, and someone sees me, the rumors will be endless. So, would it be alright if I spent the night here?" This woman was reincarnated into a novel along with her former best friend, the same girl who had once gotten her killed. And to take revenge, the very first thing Dahlia did was propose marriage to Duke Johann. But Johann, the straight-laced and emotionally blunt type, rejected her coldly. So Dahlia came up with a new excuse. It's too late to return home. Might as well stay here for the night. That night, Johann stood silently by the window, staring off in the direction of the royal palace, where his mother, the Empress Dowager, was imprisoned. Meanwhile, Dahlia was alert. She glanced around the darkened room. According to the novel's plot, the assassins should be making their move right about now. And right on cue, several black-clad intruders slipped into the Duke's estate. Just as one of them lunged forward, Dahlia threw herself in front of Johann, using her arm to block the blade. The assassination failed, and the attackers quickly fled into the shadows. Stunned, Johann caught Dahlia as she collapsed into his arms. Her face was pale, and she gave him a trembling, pitiful look. Johann's heart skipped a beat. Now, truthfully, Dahlia hadn't been brave just for the sake of love. She already knew the assassination would fail. In the original story, Johann easily defeated the attackers. She just needed to look brave, taking a small wound to build guilt in his heart. Totally worth it.by morning. Dahlia slowly opened her eyes. Johann let out a long sigh. He'd been sitting at her bedside all night. It turned out the assassin's blade had been laced with poison, something even Dahlia hadn't expected. Fortunately, Johann had removed the poison himself. He looked guilty and softly thanked her for protecting him. Sensing the timing was perfect, Dahlia pushed forward, once again asking him to reconsider marrying her. Johann looked worn out. He sighed and said, "Last night, even while unconscious, you were mumbling about revenge at S.O. If you want us to be allies, stop beating around the bush. Tell me what you really want from this marriage, and tell me who you're trying to take revenge on." Dahlia paused, then decided to tell the truth. She explained that she needed some power and influence from the Duke's household in order to take revenge on her new sister in this world, Fleur, the girl who had betrayed her in her previous life. In return, she promised to help Johann rescue his mother from the palace. Once they both achieved their goals, she said clearly, "I'll leave the Duke's household in O strings attached." Most women ask for a house, a car, and a big dowry when they get married. But Dahlia only had two conditions for marrying Duke Johann: never lie to or betray me. And no matter what I do to my sister, you're not allowed to feel sorry for her or interfere. Johann, hearing these two seemingly simple requests, shook his head. He said he needed more time to think it over. Dahlia was speechless. She knew it wouldn't be that easy to win over a man as upright and kind-hearted as Johann. Then Johann laid down his own 2 conditions. There are rumors that you've always been close to Emperor Noel. If you suddenly marry me, it'll definitely raise suspicions. So we should get engaged first, not married right away. Second, if your family gets into trouble, don't expect me to help. I'll only protect you, not your father or anyone else. To Dahlia, these conditions were no big deal at all. Honestly, knowing Johan had always disliked her family, it was fair that he didn't want to get involved with them, just like that. The two of them struck a marriage agreement built on mutual revenge. After returning home, Dahlia immediately wrote a letter to the emperor requesting official permission to marry Johan. But the emperor didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he claimed that the empire was in a state of unrest and Johan was needed to focus on national matters. So he suggested they only get engaged for now, but on the day of the empire's sacred prayer festival, Dahlia's father ordered both daughters to dress up and attend the palace ceremony. Fleur was grinning from ear to ear at the thought of possibly bumping into the emperor. Dahlia couldn't help but want to slap that smile off her face. I in the carriage on the way there. Fleur put on her usual soft, innocent act and asked, "Big sister, are you really going to get engaged to Duke Johan?" Dahlia replied, clearly annoyed, "Why do you care?" Fleur flinched as if frightened, then timidly explained, "Oh, it's just that. I heard Duke Johan is difficult to get along with." Dahlia gave a cold smirk. "You don't need to worry about my life, but what about you? Rumors say the emperor is very fond of you. Oh, you like him." At that, Fleur's cheeks flushed pink, and she gave a shy little smile. "Of course I like His Majesty. He's always so gentle with everyone." The look on her face, the way she acted, it was exactly the same as in Dahlia's past life. Dahlia felt disgusted. She leaned in and said with a fake smile, "Then be a little more forward with him. Who knows, if the emperor really falls for you, you could become the next empress." Her words hit Fleur right in her ambition. The girl's eyes sparkled with excitement, but inside, Dahlia was ice cold. Go ahead and enjoy this brief illusion of happiness, she thought, because when you're finally at your proudest and most satisfied, I'll be the one to drag you straight down into hell.
You've probably never seen a guy act this bold in front of his future father-in-law. The Count brought his 2 daughters to the palace for the Empire's sacred prayer festival. Suddenly, Duke Johan appeared in the crowd. The Count, who already knew about Dahlia's desire to marry Johan, was visibly uncomfortable. He had always hoped Dahlia would marry the Emperor instead. But right before his eyes, Johan and Dahlia were gazing at each other affectionately. Panicking, the Count quickly stepped between them and greeted Johan, trying to block the moment. Johan responded politely, but clearly had no interest in small talk. He slipped right past the Count and approached Dahlia directly. Without hesitation, and in front of everyone, Johan invited Dahlia to find a quiet place so they could talk privately. The Count was furious and tried to separate them, but before he could say another word, Johan was already holding Dahlia's hand, telling the Count solemnly, "We're going somewhere private to discuss our engagement." The poor father could only watch helplessly. Johan wasn't just a duke, he was powerful, respected, and worst of all, clearly smitten with his daughter. What could he do? Once they were alone, Johan asked, "Didn't you say you had no interest in the emperor? So why did you come to the palace today?" Dahlia rolled her eyes. "You think coming to the palace means I'm here to see the emperor?" In truth, Dahlia was here to find the Saintess. Even though she already knew the plot of the novel she'd been reincarnated into, things could still change, especially with Fleur possibly altering the course of events. If Dahlia wanted to keep Fleur under control and crush her with certainty, she'd need a powerful ally, and the Saintess was the best option. But of course, she wasn't about to tell Johan all that. Instead, she lied sweetly. "We'll need the Saintess to witness our engagement, right? So, I wanted to introduce myself to her early, but I can't meet her without your help." Johan raised an eyebrow intrigued. "All right, I can help you meet her, but not for free." Dahlia smiled on the outside, but inside she was mentally cursing him to death. "Seriously? I just said it's for our engagement, and you're still trying to get something out of it?" Johan continued, "The day after tomorrow, my advisor is hosting a banquet. I'll be attending as the Emperor's representative. There might be a difficult woman there. You handle her for me, and we're even." Dahlia paused. She didn't recall this part of the plot. That woman was probably someone the Emperor planted to get close to Johan. But one detail about that banquet did ring a bell. It would be a major turning point in the relationship between the Emperor and Fleur, making them even closer. She agreed without hesitation. "No problem. I'm about to become the Duchess. Handling one annoying woman is nothing." Hearing her call herself Duchess, Johan flinched slightly, clearly not used to the idea. But he quickly composed himself. "Guess I'd better get used to having a wife soon." They walked back to where the Count was waiting. In front of him, Johan handed Dahlia a small box and said, "This is something for the Saintess. Please deliver it for me." In order to gain another powerful ally to help her eventually crush Fleur, Dahlia decided to visit the Saintess. The Saintess was said to be chosen by the gods and became the first oracle in the empire. But more importantly, she held the Duchess title and strongly supported Johan as the rightful emperor. Just as Dahlia was about to leave Fleur behind, Fleur grabbed her hand, not wanting to be left alone. This triggered memories of how Fleur tormented her in their past life, and Dahlia felt sick to her stomach. She instantly jerked her hand away, snapping coldly, "Don't act so uncivilized in public. Do you want to embarrass our father?" Fleur pretended to be hurt, her usual innocent and teary-eyed look, but to Dahlia, it was disgusting. That fake act was exactly the same as in the past.
Dahlia sneered and said, "Just wait here. The Emperor might walk by after his meeting. That if you're lucky, you might get to see him." Flora immediately lit up at the thought, eagerly agreeing to stay put. Once Dahlia entered the Saintess's chamber, she was startled by how the Saintess suddenly appeared out of nowhere, like a ghost. Dahlia explained her reason for coming. She had brought a token from Johann. The Saintess, upon hearing Johann's name, perked up immediately and even lifted her veil. But strangely, she seemed even more interested in Dahlia herself. As the Saintess stared at her intently, Dahlia felt uncomfortable. Why is she staring so much? And why is she this stunning? The Saintess had short red hair, glowing red eyes, and skin as flawless as porcelain. Then the Saintess calmly asked, "Welcome, Dahlia. Tell me, how did you end up trapped in that body?" That line nearly made Dahlia freeze. Wait, did she just say what I think she said? Does she know I was reincarnated into this world? Dahlia stuttered, unsure how to respond. But the Saintess chuckled and said, "Relax. I was just teasing. You looked nervous." Dahlia was speechless. This is the first time I've ever been scared by a joke. The Saintess then turned her attention to the item Dahlia brought, a ring. She gasped slightly. This is no ordinary ring. It's the one originally meant for the Emperor's engagement. But fate had changed. Even though Johann now had the ring, he wasn't the Emperor. The Saintess smiled and said, "So, the rumors are true. You and Duke Johann are about to get engaged." But Dahlia interrupted. "Actually, that's not the only reason I'm here. I don't want to just get engaged. I want to marry him right away. The Emperor is deliberately delaying us, so I was hoping to get a divine blessing from the gods to push the marriage forward." The Saintess agreed without hesitation and told Dahlia to prepare some sacred offerings. Once those are ready, the gods will give their answer, though whether they'll approve or not, that I cannot say. Dahlia politely thanked her and was about to leave, thinking, wow, that was way easier than I expected. The Saintess is surprisingly easy to talk to. But just as she reached the door, a strange voice echoed behind her. "Just wait quietly for the decree. Guest from another world." Dahlia's blood ran cold. She spun around, but the room was completely empty. The Saintess had vanished without a trace. Today was the day of the banquet hosted by Johann's aide. Dahlia, of course, showed up looking stunning. After all, Johann had asked her to help deal with a certain woman, and in a battle between women, appearance is power. There was no way she was going to lose the aura game. Ever the gentleman, Johann invited Dahlia to dance, and the two of them, handsome and elegant, looked perfectly matched. But naturally, this sparked whispers among the noble ladies. They snidely gossiped. Can't win the Emperor's favor, so now she's going after Duke Johann. But behind the sneers, their eyes were full of jealousy. Dahlia ignored them. Thanks to Flora in her past life, she had long since grown used to that kind of petty talk. And honestly, today Flora was the one set to be publicly ridiculed, being so adored by the Emperor that she was practically everyone's enemy. Upstairs on the second floor of the ballroom, Dahlia got straight to the point. "So, who's the woman you need help with?" Johann casually pointed downstairs to a woman chatting with Flora. Dahlia instantly recognized her, Anna. According to the novel's plot, Anna would eventually be betrothed to Johann's aide, but her family strongly supported the Emperor's side. So Johann's aide had zero interest in her. In fact, the aide had always been loyal to Johann. He even gave up his noble title as a baron and chose instead to serve Johann as an assistant, something that had already made the Emperor quite unhappy. Johann continued explaining, "I'm not sure what Anna's father said to the Emperor, but His Majesty specifically ordered me to keep her company at this banquet." Dahlia's eyes lit up, trying to make a move on my fiancée right in front of me. "You don't even need to ask. I was going to handle her either way." With a confident smirk, she added, "Let's not forget, my reputation as a vicious villainess wasn't earned for nothing." She lifted her gown and gracefully descended the stairs, but in just that blink of an eye, Anna was nowhere to be seen. All that was left was Flora, flashing her fake sweet smile. Just the sight of her made Dahlia's blood boil. Trying to stay composed, she scolded Flora, "You're no longer some wild girl living in a shabby warehouse. Stop grabbing my sleeve in front of others. It's embarrassing." "And where did that Anna woman go?" Flora kept up her nauseating cuteness. "You mean Miss Anna? She said she wanted to get some fresh air, so she went up to the balcony on the second floor." Dahlia's eyes widened. Johann was still upstairs. Just as she was about to rush up, Flora grabbed the hem of her dress again. Flora clung to Dahlia's sleeve with that pitiful look on her face and softly said she was nervous. It was her first time attending a banquet like this, and she hoped her sister could stay with her. Dahlia immediately shook her hand off. She had just told Flora not to grab her like that. Now seeing her pretend to be all helpless made Dahlia feel sick to her stomach. She knew that whenever Flora put on this act, it meant one thing. She was up to something. Not wanting to deal with her, Dahlia turned to head upstairs. Her real goal was to stop Anna from getting too close to Johann. But just then, Flora suddenly pretended to fall behind her. Dahlia instantly understood. Flora and Anna had clearly planned this together, and Flora's job was to stall her. Dahlia pushed forward toward the stairs anyway, but it was already too late. Johann had come down. She rushed up to ask if Anna had done anything shady, but Johann didn't respond. He walked right past her, and when she looked back, she saw him helping Flora up off the ground. Dahlia felt a wave of frustration. She hadn't even done anything to Flora yet, and Johann was already acting like this. If he was going to get soft now, How could she possibly carry out her revenge plan? Just then, a passing servant carrying drinks accidentally brushed against Flora's shoulder. A wine glass flew into the air, and the red wine looked like it was about to spill all over Dahlia's dress. But instead of dodging, Dahlia's mind raced. This could be the perfect opportunity to embarrass Flora. So she simply closed her eyes and let it happen. But at the last second, Johann grabbed her by the waist and pulled her aside. The wine hit the floor instead. Her gown was completely untouched. Dahlia glared at Flora, furious and ready to confront her. But Johann stopped her. He brought her into a quiet room. Dahlia was still upset. "Your Grace, didn't I tell you? No matter what happens, don't show her any sympathy." Johann calmly replied, "Have you forgotten? Your sister is rumored to be romantically linked to the Emperor. If you lash out at her in public, people will think you're just jealous. That won't help your reputation, and it could even ruin our engagement." He looked at her seriously. "You need to stay calm. Revenge isn't about rushing in blindly." Those words snapped Dahlia back to reality. She realized she had nearly messed everything up. Johann then gently took her hand and added, "And don't get me wrong, if I was worried about your sister, I wouldn't have rushed over to protect you just now." Johann's reminder snapped Dahlia out of her anger. She realized he was right. If she lost her temper at Flora in public, it would just look like she was jealous of Flora's rumored connection to the Emperor. She quickly collected herself and returned to the ballroom. Holding Johann's as they walked, Dahlia leaned close to Johann's ear and whispered, "Anna saw us. She's heading this way." The moment he heard that, Johann immediately grabbed her hand with one arm, wrapped his other around her waist, and led her into a dance. Across the room, Anna saw them and trembled with rage. Dahlia smirked internally and thought, "All right then, I'll leave the dancing to you, Your Grace." The moment was so elegant and romantic that even though their relationship was just a political agreement, Johann couldn't help dropping a cheesy pickup line. He looked into her eyes and said, "Your eyes, they're like a sea of violet." Dahlia smiled and replied, "And Your Grace has beautiful eyes too." Johann looked surprised. "You know how to give compliments?" Then he suddenly brought up the first time they met. Back then, young Dahlia had been chasing butterflies in a flower garden when Johann, then the second prince, invited her to play. They locked eyes for a moment, and little Dahlia had boldly blurted out, "Didn't expect the prince to be this ugly. Earthy guy, stay away from me." Thankfully, Johann had a thick skin or he might have cried on the spot. But that moment left a deep impression on him. He never forgot that sassy little girl. Dahlia broke into a cold sweat. "Wait, did that really happen in the novel? I don't remember at all." Not wanting to dwell on the awkward memory, she tried to change the topic, but before she could, Johann continued, "I heard from your etiquette teacher that you've been working really hard on your lessons lately. He said you've been making great progress." Dahlia grimaced thinking about that teacher. He was always criticizing her, but she had to admit, thanks to his dancing lessons, she could actually keep up with Johann today. But Johann's expression suddenly darkened. "Wait, when you practiced with him, were you also this close?" He gave her waist a slight squeeze and asked seriously, "Did he hold you like this?" Dahlia quickly explained, "Of course not. He just demonstrated the moves from afar. I practiced by copying him." Only then did Johann finally relax and smile again. A maid placed 3 glasses of red wine on the table and then quickly disappeared into the crowd. Dahlia found something odd. Everyone else was drinking from copper cups, but these 3 were in glass. Suspicious. She quickly stopped Johann just as he was about to take a sip and snatched the wine from his hand. She swirled the wine in the glass. Nothing looked unusual. She sniffed it, no strange smell. "Maybe I'm just being paranoid," she thought. "To be sure." She took a small sip herself. That IT tasted normal. But in the very next moment, a burning pain surged through her throat and stomach. It felt like her insides were on fire. With the last bit of strength she had, Dahlia pointed in the direction the maid had fled. Then everything went black. When she finally opened her eyes, she realized she had no idea how much time had passed. Johann was sitting beside her, looking exhausted. When he saw her wake up, he let out a deep breath of relief. He touched her forehead gently and said, "Looks like the fever's gone." Then, in a soft voice, he added, "Good thing you only had a small sip of that poison wine. Otherwise, it could have been much worse." Dahlia quickly asked, "Did you catch the maid? Who was behind this?" But Johann hesitated and didn't give a straight answer. He simply said, "You should focus on resting. We'll talk about the rest later." Dahlia's head was still throbbing, and she didn't have the energy to keep asking. But clearly, Johann knew more than he was letting on, and whatever it was, it had to be serious. Then Johann said, "Even the Emperor seemed worried about you. He said he'll send a royal physician." That shocked Dahlia. The Emperor worried about her? That was unexpected. Johann then pulled out a scroll. "This is a divine message from the Saintess," he said. Dahlia reached for it, but Johann pulled it back. "You can only read it after you eat something. You've barely had anything these past few days." He brought a spoonful of steaming luau seafood, a pungent Chinese noodle dish, to her mouth. The moment Dahlia smelled it, she gagged. Did this man just try to feed me literal garbage? Seeing her reaction, Johann quickly took a bite himself and said with a smile, "It's actually really delicious. You just haven't tried it before." Skeptical, Dahlia took a hesitant bite and was instantly hooked by the flavor. Johann looked at Dahlia seriously and said, "I've made up my mind. I'll publicly announce that we're getting married." He also agreed to the conditions Dahlia had previously set for their marriage. Then, slightly blushing, Johann added, "And from now on, don't call me dude, just call me by my name." While Dahlia was unconscious, Johann had a lot of time to think. She had risked her life to save him not once, but twice. And now, all the people who once saw Johann as an enemy were starting to see Dahlia the same way. So even if they hadn't made a revenge pact, Johann felt he had a duty to protect her. Dahlia, a little unsure, asked, "But the Emperor hasn't approved our marriage yet, has he?" Johann's expression expression turned cold. I'll make sure he has no choice but to approve it. After Johann left, Dahlia opened the scroll that the saintess had supposedly requested from the gods for her. But the divine message didn't say clearly whether the gods approved or disapproved of her marriage with Johann. It only had two vague lines. Before the sun sets, the moon cannot rise. Dahlia tried to make sense of it. If the sun represented the emperor, did the moon refer to Johann? She was still confused. Just as she was thinking of asking the saintess directly, a man claiming to be sent by the saintess arrived to speak with her. He was the captain of the royal knights, and also the saintess's older brother. But unlike his sister who supported Johann, he was firmly on the emperor's side. He got straight to the point. The gods have already given you their answer. I'm here to collect the offering. Then he asked, I heard you were nearly poisoned recently. Do you know who did it? Dahlia was caught off guard by the question. She immediately suspected this man wasn't sent by the saintess at all. He was probably working for the emperor and trying to fish for information. Not wanting to reveal anything, Dahlia calmly took a sip of her tea and replied, the Duke has already looked into it, but it seems like the investigation hasn't made any real progress. And I've just been focusing on recovering, so I haven't really paid it much attention. Duke Johann brought Dahlia some surprising news. The emperor had officially approved their engagement. Dahlia was shocked. Johann really was a man of his word. But how had he managed to convince the emperor? Johann explained, the war just ended, and the royal treasury is running dangerously low. Even my army hasn't been paid in full. So I persuaded the emperor that marrying you might lead to financial support from your father. After all, Dahlia's father, the count, was one of the wealthiest men in the entire empire. Dahlia was speechless. So he planned to get help from his future father-in-law? Seriously? Then Johann turned serious again. It's time I told you the truth about the poisoning incident. He called someone in, and it was his assistant. The man looked deeply apologetic, clearly carrying a guilty conscience. The assistant confessed that he had ordered the poisoning. Originally, the poison wine was meant for Fleurette, not Dahlia. But something went wrong. The maid who carried out the plan had secretly been bribed by someone else and swapped targets midway, leading to chaos. And who was behind bribing the maid? It turned out to be none other than Anna, the woman who had always seen Dahlia as a thorn in her side. The assistant dropped to his knees, begging Dahlia for forgiveness and asking her to punish him. But Dahlia didn't dwell on it. She calmly said, please don't take any more actions on your own. If you have a plan, discuss it with Johann and me first. As for this incident, I'll let it go. Meanwhile, Fleurette received a strange letter. It claimed to know her secret, that she was from another world, and told her that she was the real protagonist of this novel. Fleurette was confused. But if someone believed she was the main character, maybe they were just trying to win her favor. She brushed it off. She had more important things to do. She had an appointment with someone important. After waiting a while, a carriage finally arrived. But the person inside wasn't who she expected. It was a maid sent by Anna. The maid delivered a message. My lady deeply regrets the failure of our last plan. Fleurette was furious. She had teamed up with Anna to get rid of Dahlia. But Anna had poisoned all 3 wine glasses, nearly killing not just Dahlia, but Fleurette too. Then she had the nerve to brush it all off with a weak regret and didn't even come in person, just sent a maid. Enraged, Fleurette slapped the maid across the face. Tell Anna to come up with a new plan. I don't care what it takes. Dahlia must go. If she doesn't do it, I'll report her for poisoning. The maid, trembling and clutching her cheek, whispered, but if this gets exposed, you'll be implicated too. Fleurette just laughed coldly. You're so naive. I'll just say you threatened me. Besides, you poisoned 3 glasses. Who'd believe I was working with you? I was a target too. Dahlia's wedding with John was just around the corner, and her best friend Florette's plan for revenge was about to take its first big step forward. Today, a strict etiquette instructor was helping Dahlia cram all the wedding customs she'd need to know. The instructor explained calmly, the final step of the ceremony is when the bride and groom kiss each other. Dahlia turned bright red. Wait, what? We actually have to kiss. The teacher rolled her eyes. It's just a light kiss. No one's asking you to shove a bug into his mouth. Why are you so nervous? Still red-faced and awkward. Dahlia was distracted again as the owner of the bridal boutique walked in with a finished wedding dress. Dahlia casually tried it on, an elegant, noble gown that made her beauty stand out even more. Honestly, when you're that good-looking, everything looks like it was made for you. Right then, a guard reported from outside that the Duke had arrived to see her. Before Dahlia could object, the boutique owner waved her in and said, let him in. You should see how stunning you look. When John walked in and saw Dahlia, standing there like a goddess straight out of a painting, his eyes widened, completely mesmerized. The boutique owner chuckled, snapping him out of it, and handed him a necklace. Here, help her put this on. Dahlia turned around, revealing her flawless neck and shoulders. John carefully clasped the necklace on her, and the moment the jewel touched her skin, her beauty somehow grew even more radiant. He couldn't help but murmur, you're insanely beautiful. The boutique owner grinned and said, let me go grab a few more accessories. Then she dashed out of the room, leaving the two alone in a slightly awkward silence. Dahlia stole a glance at John. Just thinking about having to kiss him at the ceremony made her heart race with a mix of embarrassment and confusion. She took a deep breath and asked, about the kiss during the wedding, is that part really necessary? John smiled gently. It's a required part of the ceremony. Just a traditional way to seal the marriage. You don't need to overthink it. Just close your eyes, and it'll be over in a second. Dahlia shot him a look and replied with a teasing tone. You make it sound like you've done this before. I'll have you know, that would be my first kiss. Seeing her suddenly act all shy and flustered made John chuckle. So this was the same Dahlia everyone called the infamous Villainess. She was kind of adorable. John offered, it's my first kiss too. How about we practice a little first? That way we won't be nervous during the actual ceremony. Then he gently lifted his hand and placed his finger on her lips. Let's try kissing like this through my finger first. Once we're comfortable, we can remove the finger. As their faces slowly drew closer, both of them began to blush. And if nothing went wrong at that moment, Dahlia and John had entered into a marriage agreement, not out of love, but for revenge. Dahlia wanted to take down the people who caused the death of her best friend. John wanted to reclaim the throne that was rightfully his and rescue his mother. And now, with the wedding just one day away, Dahlia, who had been staying at John's estate, decided to return home for a brief visit. IT was supposed to be just one day apart, but even that short separation made John unexpectedly reluctant to see her go. As the carriage rolled steadily down a quiet road, Dahlia began to nod off. But suddenly, the coach came to a sharp halt. The driver stammered nervously, "Why, Your Highness, the Emperor has stopped our carriage." Dahlia was shocked, but with no choice, she stepped down to see what was going on. Standing before her was the Emperor himself, flanked by guards and carrying a hunting rifle. It looked like he was out for a casual hunting trip, but this chance encounter felt a little too convenient. Not only had he happened to cross paths with her, but he had deliberately stopped her. Dahlia bowed gracefully. The Emperor waved it off and stepped aside, motioning for her to walk with him. Meanwhile, two guards appeared behind her, silently blocking any retreat. With no choice, Dahlia followed, but on a grassy clearing ahead, a small table for two had already been set with tea, clearly pre-planned. Dahlia sat down and calmly sipped her tea, responding politely to the Emperor's small talk, though she knew full well he hadn't come just to chat about the weather. Sure enough, once the pleasantries faded, the real reason surfaced. Your admiration for me is no secret in the Empire, the Emperor began. Your father, the Count, has tried everything to have you marry me, but now, all of a sudden, you're marrying the Duke instead. I can't help but wonder, do you really like John? Dahlia could barely hold back her eye roll. Classic man behavior. When she had chased after him, he couldn't care less. Now, that she moved on, suddenly, he had something to say. She stood up and calmly replied, I'm about to marry the Duke. Of course I like him. Thank you for the tea, but I need to get back and prepare for the wedding. The Emperor, clearly offended by her cool rejection, lunged forward and grabbed her wrist tightly. Answer me. Why did your feelings change so suddenly? His grip hurt. Dahlia glanced around. He was armed. His guard were nearby. It would be dangerous to keep provoking him. Thinking quickly, she came up with the perfect excuse. I once asked the Saintess to pray for guidance, she said, and she received a message from the gods. The divine will warn me. If I married the Emperor, it would put my life in danger. That's why I rushed to choose the next best man, Duke John. The Emperor's grip loosened immediately. If it's the will of the gods, then I understand. As he finally calmed down, Dahlia bowed gracefully and took her leave. Once she was gone, the Emperor turned to the Knight Commander and said, look into this Saintess. I want to know if this so-called divine warning is real. The commander looked awkward. Your Majesty, you know how things are with my sister. She'd never tell me the truth. The Emperor scowled. Fine. Then send people to watch Dahlia in secret. I want to see what kind of trick that woman is playing. Dahlia, dressed in a pure white wedding gown, walked slowly down the sacred aisle with her hand in John's. Marriage is usually a symbol of love between two people, but for these two, it was a union driven by revenge, each with their own enemies to defeat. They sealed the ceremony with what looked like a romantic kiss. The wedding came to a perfect close. From that moment, Dahlia officially moved into the Duke's estate. Later, John stood alone in the courtyard, deep in thought. Dahlia noticed something was bothering him, and he explained that the estate used to be like a blooming garden. His mother had turned it into a palace of flowers, but everything changed when the previous emperor died. The new king, Noel, seized power, and his first act was to imprison John's mother and send people to destroy every last flower in the estate. And the one who had carried out that order was none other than Dahlia's own father, the Count. Dahlia was genuinely regretful, but what's done is done. She believed that instead of clinging to painful memories, it was better to take real action and strike back. She promised John, I'll replant every single flower and bring beauty back to this place. Then she said, now that we've finally gotten married, I want us to sign a contract. John looked at the agreement Dahlia handed him. Most of it matched what they had already discussed, but one particular line caught his eye. After the revenge is complete, either party may request a divorce at any time. Something about that line unsettled him. He couldn't quite explain why. Was it the idea that if their plan failed, they have to stay together forever? No. That wasn't IT. IT was more that Dahlia had already planned for the divorce, even before they started their life together. That's what bothered him. Dahlia then shared her plan. She wanted Floret, her best friend, to marry the emperor, and once the time was right, they would take both of them down together. John was impressed. That's brutal. Let her have everything, then drag her down from the top. Ruthless and precise. Dahlia had clearly embraced her villainous role by now. Being praised like that, she loved it. But John paused, thinking of how Dahlia had risked her life twice to save him. He said, there's one more condition I'd like to add. Neither of us is allowed to push ourselves to the point of getting hurt for revenge. Even if we succeed, I want both of us to be healthy enough to actually enjoy the life that comes after. he added, and we'll need to act like a real married couple, so no one suspects anything. Dahlia nodded without hesitation. Deal. With that, John signed his name at the bottom of the contract. He smiled at her and said, "Well then, my dear wife, I look forward to working with you. What's it like to have a cute, clumsy little girl knight as your personal bodyguard?" To keep Dahlia safe, John had his assistant select a personal knight for her, but he didn't want a male knight hanging around her all the time. So they picked a tiny, shy-looking girl knight instead. The knight, Xiaofeng, might be small and quiet, but because she had a tough upbringing, she worked harder than anyone else at everything she did. And despite her appearance, she knew a bit of magic, and her strength actually surpassed most of the male knights on her very first night staying at the Duke's estate. It poured with thunder and lightning. Late at night, Dahlia got up to use the restroom, lighting a small candle. As soon as she opened the door, she was startled to find Xiaofeng curled up in the hallway. Xiaofeng was super embarrassed. The Duke's mansion was just too big, and after going out once, she couldn't find her way back to her own room. Dahlia was about to help her back when a loud clap of thunder suddenly roared outside. Xiaofeng, clearly terrified, crouched down and covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. She felt utterly ashamed. She'd always been afraid of thunder since childhood, and now, on her first day serving the Duchess, she'd already made a fool of herself. Dahlia realized something. This night wasn't in the original novel at all. That must mean she'd already changed the story's course. At first, she was wary of Xiaofeng, but now, it felt like this little knight could become someone trustworthy. Dahlia comforted her. "Actually, I was scared of the thunder too. That's why I got up to find a maid to stay with me. How about you just sleep in my room tonight?" Seeing Dahlia's warm and gentle smile, Xiaofeng was stunned. She had never met a noble lady like this before. All the other noble women she'd encountered had looked down on her because of her humble background, treating her like a dirty stray dog. But that night, which should have been terrifying, became something warm and comforting in Dahlia's room. The next morning, Dahlia was enjoying some sweets in the garden and personally invited Xiaofeng to join her. Xiaofeng had never tasted anything so delicious, and in that moment, she was completely charmed by her kind lady. Dahlia mentioned she was really curious about Xiaofeng's magic. Xiaofeng smiled shyly and demonstrated by drawing a protective barrier spell in the air. She explained, "Normally, after a noblewoman gets married, she receives a divine blessing. That blessing actually prevents her from using magic." Dahlia blinked in surprise. Wait, there's such a rule? Then she remembered. She hadn't received any divine blessing yet. Excited, she copied Xiaofeng's hand movements, drew a barrier circle, placed her hand on it, and chanted a spell, but absolutely nothing happened. They both exchanged an awkward laugh. Looks like Dahlia didn't have any magical talent after all. Just then, one of the gardeners noticed something strange. Burn marks on the fence. That wasn't there just a moment ago. What happened? Emperor Noel had just received intelligence. The Saintess was searching for the great wandering mage, Adi, but Noel had also been trying to find Adi for a long time. Adi was once a trusted advisor of the former emperor. Later, he also guided both John and Noel. Originally, John had been the rightful heir to the throne, but for some unknown reason, Adi had secretly passed the emperor's bloodline magic to Noel. It was as if Adi had already foreseen that Noel would seize power and succeed. Now, Noel gave the Knight Commander an urgent, absolute order. "You must find Adi before the Saintess does. If Adi decides to side with her and John, we'll be in serious trouble." Meanwhile, something strange was happening inside the Count's estate. In Floret's room, a mysterious figure in black suddenly appeared. "That letter you received a few days ago," the figure said. "I wrote it." But what he said next was even more shocking. "Yes, you are the heroine of this story, but I never said every heroine gets a happy ending, that if things continue the way they are now, you'll die at the hands of your own sister, Dahlia, that she'll take everything from you." His words were filled with bitterness, especially when he spoke of the gods. Gods, they're always so arrogant, always writing out people's fates ahead of time, then calling it destiny. He offered Floret a deal, "Form an alliance with me, and I'll give you your eyesight back, that I'll even help you return to your original world. All I need in return is for you to become empress, and once you're there, I want you to kill one person for me." Floret was stunned. "You make it sound easy. Do you think becoming empress is just a walk in the park?" The man in black gave a sly smile. "I can see the future. Helping you become empress? Piece of cake." He went on to explain, "This fall, the emperor will host a hunting festival. That day, someone will attempt to assassinate him. All you have to do is jump in and take the arrow for him. That's it." Floret's eyes went wide. "You're not helping me become empress. You're trying to kill me." The man scoffed. "You have to risk a little pain to get what you want. Trust me, you won't die." And with that, he vanished into the night. The royal hunting festival hosted by Emperor Noel had officially begun. But for Dahlia and John, something strange happened before they could even leave their estate. The royal carriage sent to pick them up had flipped over right in front of the Duke's mansion. Knight Xiaofeng quickly stepped up to inspect the scene and was stunned to find giant claw marks, the kind left by magical beasts. But they had bigger problems than wondering why a beast was roaming nearby. And if word got back to the emperor that the carriage he sent flipped at their front gate, John could easily be accused of disrespecting the crown. John immediately ordered his steward to fix the carriage. But with the damage, there was no way they'd make it to the hunting grounds on time. That's when John had an idea. "Let's go to the nearby temple and hire mages to teleport us." Not long after, he returned with 3 mages, enough to teleport himself, Dahlia, and Xiaofeng. But as soon as the mages arrived, Xiaofeng, who knew a bit about magic, felt something was off. Real mages usually gave off a calm, scholarly vibe. But these three, they felt strange. Point two of them even had glassy, lifeless eyes. Still, the teleportation spell was cast. A glowing barrier opened, and Dahlia stepped in first. But before Xiaofang and the steward could follow, one of the mages suddenly grabbed the reins and activated the teleportation prematurely. Just before vanishing, he smirked and said in a creepy tone, "Tonight will be a long one. Best of luck, my lady." In a flash of golden light, Dahlia found herself standing in the middle of a remote, empty forest. Looking at the nearby mountain range, she quickly realized this wasn't Mount A, where the hunting event was being held. She'd been sent to Mount B instead. Meanwhile, back at the real hunting grounds, John and Xiaofang were successfully teleported by the other two mages. But as they arrived, both of them looked uneasy, as if something wasn't right. The Emperor sighed and shared the latest update. There's been a report of magical beast activity on Mount B. I'm not sure if the hunting festival can continue safely. Suddenly, the Saintess came rushing in, her expression serious. My scanner detected an unknown presence has entered Mount B. Maybe it's a reckless soldier trying to hunt a beast alone. At that moment, Xiaofang came sprinting over, looking panicked. The Duchess, she's gone. John's face turned cold. He glared at the two mages. Where is she? But both men trembled in fear. They looked completely dazed, as if their memories had been wiped clean. They couldn't recall anything that had happened. The Saintess quickly pieced it together. It's a trap. That third mage, he's behind this. He's taken Dahlia to Mount B. The sun was already beginning to set. John turned to Xiaofang and said seriously, "If I don't return by tomorrow morning, gather the knights and go search for her on the mountain." Dahlia's cheeks were flushed as her hands gently caressed the soft creature in front of her. It was just too adorable. It was a tiny fox, so cute that she couldn't help herself. But then she noticed something strange. Embedded in the fox's forehead was a glowing gemstone. Without warning, the little fox darted off as if it wanted her to follow. Dahlia ran after it and was stunned to see where it had led her, a sword resting mysteriously in the grass. The fox stopped right next to the sword and disappeared without a trace. Dahlia picked it up, and to her surprise, it felt like it had been crafted just for her. The blade was razor sharp but incredibly light, so much so that she could easily swing it with one hand. Just then, a rustling came from the bushes behind her. Startled, Dahlia tripped on a rock and scraped her knee from the bushes. Emerged a terrifying creature, a magical beast, just like the ones told in legends. Its blood-red eyes locked onto her, and its jaws opened wide, revealing rows of deadly teeth. Dahlia's mind raced. She knew she couldn't outrun it. If she turned her back, she'd be dead for sure. Instead, she gripped the sword tightly and stood her ground. It was now or never, a battle to the death. The beast prepared to pounce. Dahlia, heart pounding, shut her eyes and raised the sword to strike. But in that exact moment, she heard a familiar voice. Dahlia. Suddenly, she was pulled into a strong, protective embrace. It was John. The magical beast froze, a sword now pierced through its head. It collapsed lifelessly. Still in shock, Dahlia looked up. John was holding her so tightly, she could barely move. And before she could say a word, he kissed her, a long, deep kiss. When he finally let go, his eyes were full of emotion. "I was so worried about you." Then he pulled her into another hug. Dahlia, flustered, tried to calm him down. "I'm fine, really. See? Not a scratch. Well, almost." John scanned her quickly and spotted the bruise on her leg. His face turned serious, filled with guilt. "I couldn't even protect you. I'm sorry." The sun was setting, and the mountain air was getting colder. Ignoring Dahlia's protests, John picked her up like a child, cradling her gently in his arms, and carried her down the mountain. They found shelter in a cave and lit a warm fire. There, John once again revealed his intense, overprotective side, wrapping Dahlia securely in his arms, refusing to let her go. While Dahlia and John were still enjoying their sweet romantic moment, far away, poor Xiaofang was already pacing like an ant on a hot pan. According to Duke John's instructions, if he didn't return by morning, she was to gather the knights and go search for them. And now it was time. Meanwhile, news of her sister's disappearance gave Floret the perfect excuse to sneak into the hunting festival. Even though she hadn't been invited by the Emperor, after pulling a few clever tricks, she was just about to finally hold the Emperor's hand in front of everyone, when Xiaofang suddenly shouted from a distance, cutting the moment short. Everyone turned to look and saw John, the cold and noble Duke, walking in while carrying his sweet little wife in his arms. They looked so warm and happy together, it was almost too much. Emperor Noel, watching the scene, practically choked on jealousy. Why does everyone in this world get to be happy, except my brother? But Floret was even more furious than the Emperor. Why is that annoying sister still alive? And why did she have to come back at the worst possible time? Noel tried to hide his irritation and politely asked about the situation. John calmly reported, "There was a magical beast on Mount B. It attacked Dahlia, but I killed it." After the Saintess healed Dahlia's injured leg, everyone gathered for a meeting. Dahlia described how she had seen a tiny fox with a gemstone on its forehead, a gemstone that looked almost identical to the one the Saintess wore, except it was a different color. There were only two of these stones in the world, one with the Saintess, and the other said to be in the hands of the legendary Grand Mage, Adi. John clenched his teeth in anger. Why would that guy do something like this to Dahlia? Mage or not, touch my woman, and I'll make him regret it. Even Noelle looked confused. Saintess, is there any way you can locate Adi? The Saintess shook her head and responded coldly, no. And honestly, I have no interest in finding him. It seemed like the two of them had bad history. She added, I don't know what Adi's intentions are, but I believe he'll show up again soon. From what I can tell, the beast he summoned was a one-off. The danger's over, so the hunting event can go on as planned. Just then, Florid also arrived at the scene. With so many people gathered now, it was clear this hunting festival was about to get very interesting. The hunting festival was proceeding as planned, but Dahlia seemed distracted. She kept thinking back to the moment when John had said goodbye before heading out to hunt. It's only half a day. Why did he make the goodbye so dramatic? Her cheeks flushed just thinking about it, then instantly turned sour. Why? Because that annoying Floret was sitting right next to her. Earlier, just before the men set off for the hunt, Emperor Noel had announced that any prey captured would be gifted to both Dahlia and Floret. Dahlia raised an eyebrow. You should really thank me, little sister, if it weren't for me. Do you think you'd be getting gifts from His Majesty? You'd better think carefully about how you plan to repay the Emperor's generosity. Floret smiled sweetly, even though she was seething inside. Oh yes, I've been thinking a lot about how to repay His Majesty. I'm even planning to ask the Saintess for some advice in one sentence. She deflected all responsibility straight to the Saintess. Classic Floret. Dahlia rolled her eyes internally. Still playing tricks, huh? Some things never change. The Saintess didn't answer. Instead, she changed the subject. By the way, did you all see how His Majesty kissed Floret's hand before leaving? He rarely does that sort of thing. I'm starting to think he may really have feelings for you. Floret practically sparkled with smug joy, but she quickly put on her graceful lady act. Oh, I wouldn't dare to dream of reaching for the Empire's son. Just being invited here today is already a huge honor. All thanks to His Majesty, of course. The implication was clear. I'm here today because the Emperor likes me, not because of anything you did, dear sister. Dahlia scoffed inwardly. You shameless snake. If it weren't for my so-called disappearance, would she even have had a reason to show up? Dahlia calmly sipped her tea and said, looks like everything worked out for you in the end. Huh. When news broke that I went missing, Father told you not to come. He said you'd just be in the way, but you insisted. I guess you were hoping the Emperor would pity you instead. Floret was so angry her whole body trembled. She clenched her fists, clearly wanting to punch Dahlia right then and there. But a green tea baddie like her wasn't going to lose her cool that easily. Floret quickly changed the subject, turning to the Saintess with a sweet smile. Actually, I wanted to ask if you could help me pray to the goddess, and I'm hoping to have my eyesight fully restored. Dahlia's heart skipped a beat. I in the original novel. Floret did recover part of her vision by the end. If that happened again, and she noticed the scar on Dahlia's hand, she might discover Dahlia's true identity. The shameless Emperor Noel didn't just steal the throne from his older brother John. Now he was blatantly eyeing his brother's wife too. While Dahlia and Floret had just wrapped up a sharp-tongued verbal battle, things were heating up deep in the forest between the two brothers. Noel had hunted an entire cart full of wild game. John, on the other hand, had barely caught anything. The Emperor glanced at him sideways. Everyone knows how strong you are, brother, but today, you seem a little distracted. John sighed. It's probably because Dahlia was attacked by that magical beast. Sorry if I've disappointed your majesty. Noel let out a cold chuckle. I was actually worried that marrying the Duchess so suddenly would make things awkward between you two, but judging by how close you've become, I guess I was worried for nothing. You two are practically the picture of wedded bliss. John replied flatly, as Duke and Duchess of the Empire, it's our duty to set a good example. Then he threw in a jab of his own. But I hear your majesty has been getting close to Miss Floret lately? The Emperor smiled. She's certainly a fine candidate. The Earl's family has strong political clout, after all. He picked up a bow, drew an arrow, and aimed, not at John directly, but close. With a loud whoosh, the arrow zipped right past John's ear and struck an innocent rabbit behind him. Noel smirked and added, still, I think I might be more interested in someone else now. As he walked past John to retrieve the prey, he leaned in and whispered, I'm the man who stole the throne. You really think there's anything I can't steal? That hit John right where it hurt. Try and take my woman now? That's a declaration of war. As the sun set and night fell, the ladies eagerly awaited the return of their hunters. Floret, trying her best to act cute and innocent, rushed to greet the Emperor, and he played along, gently kissing her hand. But Floret noticed something strange. Noel wasn't even looking at her. She followed his gaze and saw him staring at Dahlia. Her stomach dropped. So that's what this is about. That woman again. At the same moment, Dahlia was beaming as she admired the bouquet John had picked just for her. It was clear the two of them were like a newlywed couple, completely in love. Noel watched the sweet scene with a face like stone. Forget ruining his happiness through politics. Looks like all I need to do is take that woman away from him.